I'm petrified as to what the hell is going on here with Jaylen Brown. And I know if I'm scared, Andy, you've got to be beside yourself.
So I am. I will say that the lighthearted nature with which Missoula dealt with it has me a little less concerned. But I am very much concerned that an injury that I ignored at first, because I ignore most NBA injuries and presume they are one-off, load management, reasons, rationale, blah, 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 is now multiple games that's extending out. And now that I take it more seriously, I think a hip injury for a guy who plays defense is explosive, moves laterally, up and down. You know, you can't hide your hip in any of those motions. You can't, if your hip isn't right. Now, that's the one thing I will say. Are they treating it as such and maybe being overly cautious so that it doesn't linger over the course of the season?
Which I don't mind that, by the way. I don't think that's a terrible plan at all.
100% agree with it because, you know, he could be back after 2 games, but then if he re-injures it, then it'll be 3 on top of those 2. Let's just get it so he feels close to 100%. And go on and move forward and hopefully put this in the rearview mirror. But no, this is growing more and more concerning to me by the day. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's a concerning thing. And whether or not, the Warriors game would have been different with Jaylen Brown, I certainly think it would have been. You look at a guy like him who got pretty big in the offseason, right? Not that he was a little guy to begin with, but he bulked up a lot. He got pretty yoked, and now here he is a couple of games into the season, and his hip's acting up. And I just,
What are you insinuating?
I'm not necessarily saying one thing leads to another or not, but when you're an explosive player like that, and you put on a bunch of weight, like look at Zion Williamson, like muscle weighs you down a little bit, doesn't it? Like that's just gravity, like, you know what I mean?
I don't think Zion's only problem is muscle.
No, it's definitely not, but like that's weight, right? Like that.
So are you worried that Jaylen Brown is going down kind of the David Boston was the famous wide receiver from Ohio State.
David Boston was juiced out of his mind, so not necessarily that, but right? Didn't he get busted for steroids?
Oh yeah. No, he had some sort of dysmorphia, like he just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, like he was the Incredible Hulk. I did think of that honestly because the idea, and I wondered at the time if Jaylen bulked up to try to play in the paint more and some post-up opportunities and physical areas like that. Because I do think he's going to decide where he wants to sort of evolve as a player as he hits sort of his maturity as a professional athlete here. He joked about only 2 years left in his in his 20s and, getting older. Is he still going to be an explosive player or is he going to become more of a, they all do it, like Charles Barkley or Shaq or these guys that were explosive tend to get a little bigger. Now, they did it a little more on the chub end than the actual, like, muscular end like he did this offseason.
Chub end?
They got chubby. Okay, maybe I said it a little weird.
It's all right. Well, you acknowledged it for the first time ever.
Okay, maybe I did say that.
Okay.
But they went more chubby than they did muscular and putting on muscular weight. He went muscular weight. And because the reason I was giving you a hard time is we had a texter, I'm just going to say it, like 3 weeks ago. And I ignored it at the time, but he was like, interesting. He bulks up with 12 pounds of muscle and then has a weird injury in the offseason. Think he's on something? No, I don't actually think he's on something.
I don't think he's on something either. That's not what I was implying when I said that. It's just,
making sure.
He changed his body. His body's different now, and I don't think he did it in any untoward way. I think you saw what he was doing. He was underwater doing, lifting weights and stuff. Like, that's what he did. I know he's freaky about his health. That's fine. But it's just, his body has changed over the offseason, and he has an injury right away. That's it.
He hit puberty?
Yeah, exactly.
Your body is changing in very mysterious ways.
There's hair growing in weird places. No, it's like, but I mean, he's gotten a lot bigger, and he got injured right away to start the year. I don't necessarily know if that's a coincidence. That's all I'm saying.
Or they were due. I mean, those two guys have been relatively healthy for the bulk of their career, really. Not to knock on wood or jinx anything.
Sure.
But injuries happen. It's the reason why when we do all those stupid, like, what could derail this team? You start with injuries because injuries happen to every team, every sport. I mean, look at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Mm-hmm. They should have one of the best wide receiver corps in football, right? Except they're not playing because their wide receivers are all hurt. So it can happen to anyone. The optimistic side of Andy on Jaylen Brown is saying they're being overly cautious to make sure this doesn't linger on and become a continuous problem throughout the season that then you're wondering, is he going to be full strength for the postseason, that kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. They got the Brooklyn Nets tonight, that game at TD Garden, tipping off at 7:30. I kind of like the Nets a little bit. I like Cam Thomas a lot. Cam Thomas is having a good year. He's averaging like 25 points per game to start the year, which I wasn't expecting to see. They got a couple other guys there, and like Claxton and Schroeder and Finney Smith and some of these other guys. They're not a very good team, I wouldn't say, but could be scrappy, scrappy little team. Not even to the point of like an Indiana Pacers. I think they're a tier below them, but. Coming off a bad loss, I'd be interested in seeing how the Celtics respond here. I don't think they have to give it their all to beat the Brooklyn Nets, but, a team like this, however many losses you think they're going to have this year, it's interesting to see how they bounce back from them. I'd be interested in seeing that tonight. We saw it already earlier on in the year when they lost to the Pacers. They bounced right back against some bad teams, and we're right back on track after that before Golden State, of course. So, outside of that, I don't think there's too much to this matchup.
Do you consider that a bad loss?
What?
You said coming off a bad loss, and I don't know that I consider that a bad loss. I think the Warriors are
the Warriors
a
loss.
Team.
Sure, I mean
not a great loss. Like you're at home, I think you should have won that game. You were favored.
It was
by
the
6
revenge
points.
game. They were favored.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think they're a better, more talented team than the Warriors. Yeah,
but I don't know that it's a bad loss. Like it's not something you're embarrassed.
You're right.
By
This would be a bad loss.
This would be a bad loss.
This would be a bad loss.
This would absolutely be a bad loss, and the fact that you lost back-to-back games would absolutely be a problem for me. You have no right losing this game, especially coming off however you want to describe that loss to the Warriors. You should be disappointed in the way you finished that game. 100%.
Agreed. And when I say bad loss, I mean in terms of, they're not a bad team, but it was a game that they were all hyped up for. It was supposed to be this big circle it on the calendar type of game, and they came up short. And so that makes it for this team, that's a bad loss. I mean, honestly, like for this team, most losses are going to be looked at like as a bad loss, aren't they? You're the Celtics. You shouldn't be. Every time you lose a game, the magnifying glass is going to come up to you, and they're going to say, "Why'd this happen? You're better than them." It's going to be considered a bad. All their losses, I think, will be considered bad losses. Except if it's Cleveland.
Well, no, but I would put Golden State in that category.
Right.
Like you said, there's 5 or 6 good teams in the NBA. You're one of them, and you lost to one of them. So I think outside of that is where you get bad losses. The other question I have is because I got to look at, are they playing on the Cup court tonight? Because the Celtics keep putting out photos of the damn Cup court, and yet I haven't seen the Cup court.
Tonight is not a Cup court game.
Oh, then why do they keep doing this? Like
the first Cup court game is
NBA Cup court really pops.
The first one is going to be on the 12th, and it's against Atlanta, and it's during group play of the NBA Cup. So that's coming up, but it does not start tonight. So
and why did they change the name from in-season tournament to NBA Cup? Wasn't it NBA in-season tournament last year?
In-season tournament's a little, I don't know, a little on the nose. It's like calling it the afternoon show,